Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of The Stirr. I'm Lawrence Charles, and today I have with me an incredible guest. His name is Tyler Bushnell. He comes from a background of software engineering, woodworking, and industrial design, and is the inventor of the Polycade. He's built the retro gaming system platform to be more modernized and for the 21st century. So I wanted to just have an opportunity to have a conversation with someone that comes from such a legacy of gaming. And so I introduced you guys, Tyler. How's it going today?
Excellent. Happy to join you, Lawrence.
Excellent, excellent. So Tyler, the first thing I want to know is, how was family dinners? What you have, like, so far you have 8 siblings.
7 siblings.
7 siblings. Yep. And so all of which are in gaming, or?
No, so I would say, let's see, roughly 5 of us are directly in gaming, and 1 of us is peripherally in gaming. My sister Alyssa does PR for the tech industry. And then we have 2 black sheep. My sister Neela does financial planning, and my sister Britta is in birthing.
So that's really interesting. So the thing that brings me to this conversation is one of my heroes, your father, Nolan Bushnell.
Yeah.
The inventor of Atari, and he was named by Newsweek as one of the 50 most influential Americans that built America, right?
Sure, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, like, just kind of growing up in that household. Like, you were a middle child, right? So you're the negotiator?
Yeah, for sure. And you know, I think I've always kind of viewed myself as the peacemaker within my siblings. So that definitely reigns true. But you know, growing up in our house was interesting because, you know, my dad's name is one that in certain circles is very famous. But most people wouldn't recognize his name. And so, you know, we had this concept that dad's famous, but not like a celebrity. And so it was really interesting growing up. You know, my parents have always done a very great job of kind of pushing us to create things and start things and explore. They've been extremely influential on us in those capacities.
So family dinners.
Yeah, so family dinners have always been a lot of fun. I would say once everyone was like over 18, they've been a lot of fun. You know, a lot of people would describe it as verbal hand-to-hand combat. And, you know, there's a lot of ideas thrown around, and you know, a great many guests have said that we should really have a reality show that's centered on the family dinner, which my mom has completely shot down every time.
Well, I would be excited to watch it. One of the things I learned, just as I start to understand a little bit more about your story, is that at 10 years old, your dad, that was the graduation period to allow you guys to actually travel on business trips.
Yeah, so my dad would love to take us on business trips to get us kind of, I guess, like seasoned in that capacity. It was both like a good bonding time, but also like a good time to like explore the world and also get like a little bit of that business sense rubbed off on us. And even, you know, aside from going on these one-on-one business trips, you know, we would go to trade shows with my parents from the time that we were, I mean, even when we were babies, right? So E3 is a trade show that I've been at since the very beginning. You know, the amusement trade shows for arcade machines and stuff. We used to love going to those because this was in the 80s when, you know, we'd spend a lot of quarters on this stuff, and we could run around, test all the new games for free. crane machines that is better than Halloween. We'd get tons of candy out of those trade shows.
Well, that is one thing that actually intrigues me. So at 12, you guys actually went on European trips, and then by 14, you guys were allowed to go on Asian trips. So were there any distinction in how business was done in the U.S. versus Europe versus Asia?
Not particularly from our view at that time. We were like, when you're 14 on a business trip, even in the moments that you're kind of like out in the conversations and stuff, you're not perhaps like connected enough into it to really understand the differences in different geographical regions. I would actually say that the age requirement had more to do with exoticness of food.
Interesting.
Yeah, my dad's always been, extremely. He wants us to test things and try things and explore things, and so how well you would explore different foods would kind of decide if you got to go to Asia or not.
So, and you guys were allowed to break things, and it wasn't necessarily a problem with your father. He welcomed it.
Sure, yeah. I mean, maybe to a fault. Growing up, my dad had what we called the lab in the house, and this was where it was kind of like an electrical engineering laboratory. And he never really used that throughout our childhood. But we got a lot of use out of it, and most of it had to do with destroying things, including some like extremely expensive electrical engineering devices that we got in some serious trouble when he discovered we had ruined them.
Well, so this was in Utah, Clearview?
No, so we grew up in nearby Palo Alto. My father left Utah after college and hasn't lived back there since.
Gotcha. And you guys all are in Los Angeles now?
Yeah, the whole family relocated before my senior year in high school.
Beautiful. And so you're an avid board game player.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, you have an extensive collection. I mean, tell me a little bit about it, like the hardest game that you have. Tell me about a few of those games.
Oh, I mean, I've got somewhere in the realm of like 80 to 100 games. My siblings and I love board games so much that we also love like testing out and playing with new mechanics. I would say any game in our library tends to get like 3 plays, occasionally more. For certain games like Agricola, we've played a lot of. One called Azul is a popular one, easy to learn. But yeah, we have a lot of fun with board games.
And so at 14, was that the start of your entrepreneurial experience? Because both you and your brother made a game, and you guys licensed it to Topps at 14?
So the story with that, this was around the time Magic the Gathering was very popular. And so we were like, okay, let's make a spin-off that's in space. And so we went about developing that and testing it and all of that. And then my dad actually took it to Topps and got it licensed. Topps never actually did anything with it because they decided they didn't understand the space well enough. But we did get a minimum guarantee for that licensing.
Did you see any of the money?
No.
I know how parents work.
I did not see any of the money, which we have never let my dad forget.
That's the thing that's disheartening, but it's awesome too because again, you're paying it forward into your living and everything else.
Right. Yeah. And to his defense, he thought he gave us some money, but I don't know.
So you decided to invent this incredible machine to kind of bring back retro gaming, and you called it the Polycade.
Yeah.
So and that's what you're doing currently.
Correct. Yeah.
So what inspired that?
So I want to clarify a couple things. It's not just about retro gaming. I would say the real focus with Polycade is social gaming. And I don't mean like social online. I mean like in-person shoulder rubbing, high-fiving experiences. That's really our focus. And sorry, what was the question?
So I was just curious about what inspired you to create this.
Yeah, so I feel like video games in general have gone down this rabbit hole of hardcore gaming or this like hyper casual mobile experience that is kind of unfulfilling. And for us, coming from a big family and enjoying hanging out with my friends and playing games, the missing piece in video games felt like a social gaming platform, an in-person social gaming platform that focuses on kind of the mid-core game that's easy to learn, but has a lot of depth and can grow with your skill, and just that in-person experience, right? And so part of something that was very important with Polycade was the design of the unit, and the reason being that the social centers of your homes or even bars and other workplaces and otherwise, design is important, and people don't want to hang around ugly stuff. And I love the look of classic arcade machines, but they have a place, and usually it's not in the living room. And so we wanted to make sure that the machine looked in a way that could access spaces that video games and arcade machines traditionally could not.
And so to keep the energy in good standing in your home, there was actually someone or something that said, hey, it's going to be in the garage if you bring in one of those retro games, huh?
Yeah, and so my wife actually was a great sounding board for this concept because we knew we wanted it to exist in these spaces, and she's a furniture designer, which also by extension means you're kind of an interior designer. And so when I told her I was going to create an arcade machine to put in the living room, she's like, oh, no way. And so we got to talking, and it came down to design, and so I would throw different designs at her. What about this? What about that? And she was like, that can go in the living room.
Interesting. And you were a part of the NBC Universal Accelerator in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
With other creators within the media space, right?
Yeah, and so this was a Techstars accelerator in partnership with Comcast NBC Universal. Quite a mouthful, but this was an extremely awesome growth experience for us as a company. Coming from an entrepreneurial family, there is a massive amount of informal training that we get just throughout life, but this was very different. This was like entrepreneur boot camp, and much more structured and also like current, I would say. The landscape of like venture capital and startups has changed significantly in the past 10 years. So this was a great chance to like formalize our education and update it.
I mean, it's interesting too, and I don't know that a lot of entrepreneurs realize this because a lot of us, we tend to have this identity that we can do it all. And the thing that happens with accelerators is that a lot of the mystery of raising capital, a lot of times, gets filtered through accelerators, which will allow you to be able to get that first bit of capital and so on and so forth, or at least get that warm introduction, which is absolutely vital in order for you to actually do something. So you started out on Kickstarter and you raised $125,000.
Right.
You were expecting to just do $20,000.
So I wouldn't say we were expecting to do 20,000. The way that when I launched the Kickstarter, even when you have an idea that you think is awesome, you have no idea if other people will. You can kind of guess at it, but Kickstarter is a fantastic place to test a concept because the only cost that you have is creating the Kickstarter campaign. maybe a prototype, right? But you don't have to go all in on manufacturing before you know you have sales. It allows you to get sales ahead of time and then spend that money on manufacturing. So it's really quite an elegant solution. We set the mark at 20 grand because that was, in that scenario, if we had raised 20 to 40 grand, that was me in my garage building a few arcade machines,
Sure.
which, fun times. If we did $1 million, that looks a different way. So 125K was a great mark to be able to go full time and really make an awesome product.
Beautiful. So one of the things that I did want to know a little bit, I want to pick your brain, and I wanted to understand where did you see the future of gaming going, if you can kind of summarize that quickly.
I think that for gaming, part of the future of it is, we've already seen some of this happen where, it's not just the console, it's, the mobile experience is very strong. Games like Pokemon Go, kind of permutated what the possibilities for gaming and environments could be. And so we see gaming, I believe gaming will penetrate all aspects of our lives. And gamification is a very popular term in startups and venture capital right now. And I think that we're going to see that really increase over the next 10 years.
A lot of game theory, right?
Yeah, where just even, platforms like Yelp and otherwise will start to adopt some of these like video game mechanics in order to really engage users.
So best business advice as it pertains to what you're working on now?
So for someone else
that was given to you by
oh, sure.
family or mentors?
Hard to say. I think I have a tendency to do everything myself. And so valuable advice for me was to get better at delegating, which has definitely improved over the last 6 months.
One of the things I tell entrepreneurs like myself is that the faster that you know what your weaknesses are, is the quicker that you could cover those. You could
So
speak
true.
French fluently, but if someone right here speaks French right now, then you bring that person in if you can, because you're going to have to learn, and that takes a little bit of time.
Exactly.
So, what does legacy mean to you?
Legacy to me is the idea that something has this a history, a rich history that influences the future.
To yourself,
For
what do you want to leave behind?
Yeah, so I would like to leave behind something that the social, bringing gaming back to a social experience for me is, I think, a great achievement and something I'd like to leave behind.
Excellent. And I have a couple quick hitting questions, just in one word or just a sentence. I'll give you a word and you give me a sentence.
Okay.
Discovery.
Exploring new things.
Creativity.
Creating things via inspiration.
Fun.
Learning without without a hard failure.
Tyler, I want to thank you for being here. I understand your time is very precious and that you guys just raising $2 million, that busyness is insane, and I understand what that takes, so congratulations on that. And thank you so much for just taking your time to be here. And thank you guys. Good night.